Is knowledge something static that just exists and it's the same for everyone and we just need to acquire it? Or is knowledge more subjective than that? Is it dependent upon someone's upbringing and culture? Is it inherently subjective? Is knowledge different for each person? In this video, we're going to talk about those types of questions by looking at the theories of constructivism and positivism and how they relate to learning and education. Hi, I'm Janice, and you're watching Sharp Cookie. On this channel, we cover topics related to studying, learning, and problem solving. So if that's something you're interested in, please hit the subscribe button. I post new videos every week. And of course, hit the bell for notifications. Now, I'm a tutor and I've tutored hundreds of different students, and in my own time, I like to research different things and topics related to learning, which I share on this channel. Now, this topic on constructivism versus positivism is really fascinating to me because it has sort of a philosophical nature to it, and there's no right or wrong answer. However, it does lead to very different teaching styles depending on which side of the spectrum you fall on. These terms can be used in a lot of different contexts, even in art class or philosophy, but for this video, I'm only going to focus on how they're used in education. In this video, I'm going to do a deep dive into each one and give you examples, but before we get started, I want to provide you just a general definition. So positivism is the belief that there is one set knowledge or truth, and it doesn't matter who you are. You can have your own beliefs, but there is still just one truth, and the main way to get to that truth or that knowledge is through the use of the scientific method and similar means, very logical, methodical, rational means. Now, constructivism is at the other end of the spectrum, which says, you know what? There is no one truth or one knowledge for everyone. Knowledge is inherently subjective. It depends on, the eyes of the beholder, so to speak. So there is no one knowledge for everyone. So that's a general definition. So let's start with positivism. This idea that there is only one knowledge and you just need to go get it. And it can be transferred and deposited, but it's static. It doesn't change from one person to another. It just is. It's the truth. How this would relate to education is the belief that the teacher is the holder of this knowledge, and it's the teacher's job to deposit this knowledge into the students. It's not necessarily about the students thinking for themselves unless it's part of the strategy to get them to think exactly like how the teacher thinks. So you can kind of see where this is going. It's more of a traditional approach to teaching where it's very lecture style a lot of times, where it's like, okay,
I'm the knowledge holder and now I will lecture so that you will hear the knowledge that I have and I will transfer it to you.
Another way to look at it is it's kind of like currency, where you could maybe be the bank and you're depositing this currency into your students. So one by one, you're depositing these little chunks of knowledge. The way this would appear in the classroom also reflects in testing. Standardized tests such as the SAT and the ACT in the US system to get into college, these are very positivist forms because we think there's only one answer to everything. Tests that are very, very structured and there's only one right answer and there's no gray area, it's just testing the knowledge, that would be very positivist. Similarly would be very closed-ended questions, this belief that there are facts and then there are things that aren't facts and we're only testing you on the facts. Again, positivist. So the teacher is the knowledge holder and the teacher's passing on this knowledge and then the knowledge is being tested. And that's how usually the system, this philosophy, would manifest itself in education. All right, now let's switch gears and go deeper into constructivism. So again, constructivism at its core is pulled out of the name of construct. In other words, knowledge is a construct. We build it ourselves. What's true of one person or one society or one culture is not the same or true in another. And that's what a constructivist would believe. Now, I want to give you this really cool definition by Davis Elkind. Constructivism is the recognition that reality is a product of human intelligence interacting with experience in the real world. As soon as you include human mental activity in the process of knowing reality, you have accepted constructivism. Constructivists would say the scientific method in and of itself is a construct. And the scientist participating in that method is going to enter into the process with their own biases and viewpoints and beliefs and upbringing that are going to inherently change the way the data is recorded, how they see the data. They are a part of the process. So as long as human beings are involved in the process, then there has to be some element of constructivism when it comes to knowledge. This reminds me of this example in astronomy. And they found this issue where these scientists and astronomers, very precise, intelligent people, were observing the same event, but all recording different times. So that's the example that came to my mind, where we think of science as this very static thing and it's not changeable, yet the scientist is a factor in the science that's being created. So they can all be looking at the same phenomenon, yet recording different times for it. All right, so how would this look like in the classroom or in a sort of education teaching type philosophy? Well, a teacher that has more of a constructivist mindset believes that, you know what, there is no 100% right answer. It depends on how you look at it. And they view the students as being able to construct their own knowledge, just as they do. So they believe as the teacher, they're able to construct something, and so are the students. So there is no just one static body of knowledge that they need to deposit. It's something that they want to facilitate and create and allow the students to construct for themselves. These type of teachers all believe that all data is basically generated by humans, because it's the humans that are interpreting this data, and different humans are going to interpret it differently. Just like each student might interpret the data or the information in a different way, and that doesn't make the student wrong. So these type of teachers are not as fond of standardized tests or very precise yes or no, right or wrong type of answers. So they're more open to the student perhaps debating their point of view, which would mean they're more open to, let's say, short response questions that perhaps would have multiple answers. And as long as the student is able to defend it and provide substantial evidence for their viewpoint, then that would make it correct. Not necessarily whether it's what the teacher themselves believes, it's can you provide substantial evidence and support for your belief. So the teacher's role changes. The teacher's role is not about lecturing and depositing information. The teacher's role is about creating an experience so that the students can construct and develop their own conclusions of the data. So what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, from what I've seen, most teachers use a combination of these two methods. The variety of people who teach are not in one extreme or the other. They're somewhere in the middle. And I actually think that usually works best for teaching, because most of the time the teacher does need to deposit some basic framework and understanding to the student. But then there's also some room for the student's own construction and interpretation. So I think this idea of like somewhere in the middle works really well. And I'll give you some examples. So one example that came to my mind is in a foreign language class. If you're in a Spanish class, there are certain words for certain things. You know, you can't just construct them on your own, because if you go to a Spanish-speaking country, they're going to have no idea what you're saying. However, there is room for some of your own interpretation and construction. So the teacher might give you a base volume of vocabulary, and then allow the students to pair up and converse on their own. And maybe they have Spanish-speaking friends or a background, and they incorporate some of their pre-existing experiences with the language into the exercise. Or maybe they take some of the sample sentences from the teacher and put in their own vocab words or scramble them around and basically create something new. So there's a way of providing some framework and some baseline for common understanding, and then allowing space for construction to happen. So that's all I have today on this topic. Thank you so much for joining me. If you found this helpful, please take a second and give it a thumbs up. It really helps, and it shows me that you're interested in more content like this. I also want to let you know that I have a free puzzle book that I developed myself. I always think puzzles are great ways to help develop different cognitive skills. So I have a link in the description. You can get a free PDF copy of that. I also have a link right below that one that allows you to sign up for my newsletter, where I give you more tips and information on learning. And lastly, I provide one-on-one virtual tutoring. You can get more information at hellosharpcookie@gmail.com. Thank you so much again for joining me. If you forgot to subscribe, please do it now so that you get my video next week. My name is Janice. Thanks again. Bye.